Alright. Join when you're ready, my dude. So, how did everybody do with the outlining thing this week? Not that I know some of you didn't get a chance to do it, and don't worry, you're not being sent into the corner for it. But how did it go for everybody?
Reasonably well.
Nice.
Some I used the 3-act one, which I don't know if that was the best option, but I sort of meant it sort of fit.
Nice.
Like what I was aiming for more was like a 5-act structure.
Yep.
But I already had one of those, so
Okay.
in terms of outlines, so.
So you're trying something a little different?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my cat was scratching something she shouldn't have been.
No problem.
So that's cool. I'm glad that you found that helpful. I know a bunch of people have dropped their outlines into the critique channel, and even if you aren't ready for this week, haven't gotten an outline done, feel free to drop it in there and we can talk about it. Did anybody find anything challenging specifically for the outline structure they chose to work on?
So obviously, since the beat sheet and the outline doesn't actually lend itself very well to the type to the work that I'm currently working on.
Yeah, it's yeah.
It was a bit of a challenge to twist it around in such a way as to try and make the two line up.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, no, it's an excellent format. Even for that, even with that difficulty, it really kind of helped clarify where I was trying to go with it. So.
Which is ideal. Yeah, I know you're doing nonfiction, which is the structure of those is a little different because you don't exactly have acts per se. But it's still it's nice to have a format to try and work on, at least a little bit.
It definitely helped me try and find salient key moments in the narrative that I was trying to weave.
Yep.
As opposed to, my typical writing, which you read, which is just gibberish, 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 gibberish. Here's some facts. Here's my opinion. Goodbye.
Yeah. You're not so good with the brevity, but your writing is really good.
Yeah, well, at least there's that. I'll take that compliment.
Yeah, well, the writing content and quality is good. It's just you don't tend to you tend to wander around before you find your point a little bit, since I think you kind of stream of consciousness that and then don't go back and rewrite things so much.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly it. It's because I'm actually a cat in a human suit. So.
3 cats, no trench coat, huh?
That's it, yeah. Anyone else?
I know Ellie said that she didn't think hers exactly fit because of the number of characters, but I think she did just fine. So far, I think all of the outlines that I've looked at in there have been really good. I'm actually really interested to see how some of those stories come out. So that's that's been kind of exciting, and it's nice to see everybody being so helpful to each other, which is kind of one of the things I wanted for this group. Hi, Yuna.
What's up?
How's your outline going?
I'll get back to you next Thursday.
Understandable.
I mean, I've started writing an outline, and then I wrote a poem instead, but the poem was kind of garbage to me, so I kind of lost focus. And,
That's okay.
And plus, I've been out of my anxiety medicines and my sleep meds, so
oh yeah, that makes writing hard.
Yeah, it really did.
Like I didn't get much of anything done this week either because I've been like 6+ days with migraine situation, so my brain is soup.
Oh yeah, I get it.
But also, just because you write something that isn't good, honestly, writing something at all is better than writing nothing. You can edit whatever's on a page, but you can't edit a blank page. So even if the poem didn't come out good the way you wanted it to, you can always go back and rework it and work on it and edit it all you want.
Yeah.
But if you hadn't written it, you couldn't edit anything.
That's one way to look at it, I suppose.
Well, every time you put pen to paper, it's practice. And I don't know how many other folks in this channel are musicians or do art of various different kinds, but nobody starts out good. Nobody starts out good.
You know, so and not to interject, but to kind of further your point there, I spent a lot of time recently on Twitter trying to engage with the writing community there. And at large, that exact advice is repeated so often, it might as well just be like the maxim for the entire writing community.
Yep.
That nothing you don't write is ever bad because you didn't write it. So
Yep.
it doesn't actually matter. But every time you put something on paper, regardless of what you perceive it to be, is far more valuable than ever having not written it.
Exactly. That is 100% true. And also, I know we writers tend to be hypercritical of everything we write. I am horrible about that because I'm an editor. I'm like, everything is wrong and this sucks and I never want to write anything again. But every time you write something, it's practice. It's like sitting down and practicing scales on an instrument. And every time you do it, you're going to get a little bit better. So even if it's not good the first time, that's okay. It's a start. It's a beginning. I really like that, Ellie. That's a great way of phrasing it. And that is also 100% true. Like, having an idea and never writing it down, never working on it, just having a concept in the back of your head that you just forget someday, even though it was a great idea because you never use it, is way worse than having written something, and even if it's garbage, you've got something down. I am calling you out, Nikki, I am. With love, but I'm calling you out. It's okay if it sucks. Sucking is part of growth and opportunity. You get out here right now, Nikki. Get out here. Stop hiding. Look at you all pretending that you didn't want to, you know, pretending to be innocent. I see it. I see you trying. That's an interesting poem, Jonathan.
Yeah, it was a bit odd.
Well, hey, so I mean, like I said, writing anything, even if it's just practicing. So my friend, whom some of you know, obviously Heather and Ellie definitely know him, Randall, he tries to suggest that all writers write about 1,000 words a day, if possible. And he's a little bit more rigorous about it being every single day than I am because he doesn't see anything as an excuse, whereas I'm like, well, life happens. No texting does not count. Oh, pouty faces. For me, I can't always write 1,000 words a day because my brain may be soup, I might have a migraine, things happen. And 1,000 words sounds like a lot when I say it, but it's actually like a page and a half in Word. So it's not much. But he's kind of right that if you write a little bit as often as you can, I don't think so, Jonathan. As often as you can, write as much as you're able within reason, you're going to get better. And the only way you're going to get better is by doing it. My problem hasn't been so much writer's block, Heather, as it is I spend so much time editing other people's books that my creative energy is gone. I've put so much of my energy into fixing the books that I've got on my plate to work on, and then trying to actually write anything, dear God, help me. Which, you know, not ideal, but Chris, if you Crits, you're now Crits. If Chris, okay. If you just write a little bit every day, even if you just write "I hate writing," yes, you absolutely can, Nikki. You can roleplay with people who don't exist any longer. That's completely okay. Or you and I can roleplay on Discord. That's fine. That actually counts, by the way. Anybody who does text-based role-playing with other people, I say that counts towards your 1,000 words a day because you are writing. You're interacting with people and you're using the creativity and you're practicing writing. And if you actually treat text-based role-playing as an opportunity to practice your writing and work on the things that you want to do, you know, I need to work on my word choice, I need to work on my grammar and that kind of thing. If you actually use it that way, it is a perfect writing exercise. So that, I would argue that that completely counts. And if that's the case, I write a lot, frequently. Yeah, mine is too, actually. Several of the people in this channel, like Yuna, you know Archimedes.
Mm-hmm.
You know his whole story. That's where that whole thing came from. MC is main character. And it's okay. But yeah, that's kind of the thing, is you're anything where you're doing some kind of creative writing. I would even argue that dungeon masters preparing for their D&D group totally counts as creative writing. So if you're a DM or if you're working on things for your Dungeons and Dragons group or other tabletop role-playing games, that counts too. Because you're doing world development, you're doing character development, you're thinking about how to get people through plots. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it counts. It totally counts, and I agree, Jonathan. It definitely counts. Like I think writers in general don't think of the power of using roleplay, whether text-based or D&D, a lot of times because they don't always know enough about it to be able to speak on it, but I think it's a fantastic tool. Because let me tell you what, when my players have done something dumb and gone off in a direction that I had no plans for, being agile enough to get ahead of them or around whatever it is they're doing, it requires flexing your creative muscles a lot. Yeah, this time you can stay under the table, Nikki. Right? Oh my gosh. Like, I'm sure you've had that experience too, you know, when a scene goes, like, weird and you have to try and figure a way to get back into where you were intending on going. It can be a real exercise in creativity.
Yeah, especially when I'm the one that does it and then I don't even expect it.
Right?
And then I'm like, wait, what'd I do? And then I was like, oh, well, they're rolling with it, so here we go.
Well, right, that's the thing, is it kind of gives you the opportunity to explore different stuff and figure out how to get into and out of trouble in a low stakes sort of situation. Yeah, it's improv. You're right.
Yeah, I can do improv all day long.
My husband has rescued me by bringing me soda, for which I will love him forever. Not that I wouldn't love him forever anyway. And
Hi,
speaking,
Jason.
Jay says hi. I don't think you probably heard him in the background there. And yeah, I've done stuff like that too, Ellie. Like, you know, or personally, one of the things I like to do, Jay, can you... Sorry, he's my husband is doing things in the background. One of the things that I really like doing for me is I like putting on movie scores when I'm writing and just lie down and listen to the music and imagine like all these really dramatic and sweeping sorts of scenes. That can be a lot of fun too.
It is fun because I do it.
Yeah.
If the words, if
Yep.
it's like just purely instrumental,
Yeah,
then
I
I'll
use,
do that.
yeah, exactly. I don't use stuff with words because I find the words distracting. They kind of, then I'll start writing the words that I'm hearing in my book, and then that happens. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Chris. That's awesome. And Ellie, I've got, if you want me to, I can actually share some of my D&D track lists in the group that I use for ambiance for my D&D games. And none of them have words, and they have good, like, thematic feelings around them, whether it's tense or like, I'll share the spooky ones. You don't need to listen to the spooky ones, but sometimes spooky ones are good. I'm happy to share some of those in the group that I've organized by emotion that I'm trying to evoke. And I'm always adding stuff to them too. They are instrumental and they are orchestral in nature for the most part. So that's a fun thing. I don't have any Vivaldi in them. They are just they're mostly Two Steps from Hell and X-Ray Dog, which you wouldn't know either of those groups because they basically make music for video game trailers or movie trailers. You would have heard them in the background sometimes. Or I've used, I'm going to be adding scores from video games and movies into them that create the mood that I'm trying to evoke. I haven't listened to any of the RuneScape music. I might have to.
So if I'm getting this correctly, you use music as a way to try and evoke emotions within yourself that help you shape your narrative or
Yes.
your creative spirit for the words you're putting down.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm writing a big fight scene, I'll listen to some, like, Avengers, the big thematic score when they were fighting against Thanos. I might pop that in and listen to that for a while, or something off of Mass Effect or something. It helps create that headspace in me and gets me amped up for the scene I'm writing. I really like that. Mass Effect has such good music. Ugh. I love it.
I mean, this. Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, what I was going to say is that that ties into the whole role-playing conversation as a way to try and put yourself in the shoes of your characters, and that's in my opinion, as again, a relatively inexperienced author, that's absolutely vital because unless you can put yourself in their position, you're never going to be able to make honest and true decisions for
Mm-hmm.
them on the page, or at least in my opinion. Again, I mean, it's conjecture at this point from me, but
Well, you're not wrong. Like, you have to be able to get into your character's head, into their shoes, into their soul at that moment, and kind of empathize with them, even if you can't, even if they're in a situation that you've never been in. But I find that using movie scores for that is great because the composers for movie scores are really good at setting the tone with their music, and it does a great job of creating that evocative sort of flow when I'm writing. So I've found that really helpful. Yeah, there's no wrong way to use music in that way, I don't think. I mean, short of, like, plagiarism, stealing lyrics and using those as your writing. But I think there's no wrong way to use music. There's no wrong music either, since it's such a deeply complex and broad range of possibilities. So whatever you like, go for it. Yeah, that's kind of what that's sort of what I'm going for, Chris. Like, I find music helpful for me. There might be a character who has no soundtrack, and that's completely cool. That's a neat idea. I use it more to set tone for scenes than for specific characters. Myself. Okay. We'll see you when you're back.
I should clarify that statement. So I recently found out that there are people in the world, not unlike people who don't have an internal monologue, like a voice in their
Yep.
head when they think to themselves. But my brother actually has no ability to experience music. And I mean that in the way that he hears music, but it has no logical effect on it. And so there must be
Yeah.
more of them out there.
My husband had a friend like that who was I think in high school, you mentioned, Jay? Who he didn't dig
After high
music?
school.
Huh?
After high school.
After high school? Yeah, okay. He had a friend when he was younger who just didn't have that kind of emotional response to music. And there are people like that out there. I don't have advice for them really because, look, I started playing music when I was 4, and I come from a very deep DNA level line of musicians going back a ways, so I can't really understand that, but I know that it's a thing. So, but
Sorry.
why are you
No,
sorry?
but I mean, because that's what I do. I'm,
This is
part
a conversation, my
Canadian.
dude. Jump in.
Well, I mean, I tend to be overly vociferous sometimes, as we all know.
Yeah, we're good.
I don't know that.
Yeah, but I mean, the question is, how do you write somebody who we have, certain archetypes for characters. You have your strong characters, you have your passionate characters, you have your beautiful characters, you have, all of these basic archetypes for characters that exist and are fairly easy to define, right? But there's also those characters that are nearly impossible to counter in your everyday life, and that is just one example. A person who doesn't experience music, or perhaps, and this is, pretty relevant to our current sociological discourse, an asexual person, something
Yep.
we're just finally, after all of these centuries, admitting actually A exists naturally and B isn't bizarre,
Yep.
is a perfectly normal human being. Um, and so on and so forth. And I apologize if there's a lot of background noise.
I'm actually not hearing any. The sound filter on Discord is getting better and better, so I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, you really chose the right platform here. Bravo, clap, clap. But those types of characters, I mean, I think that all of us can get into those ideas where we have characters that we've met in real life and we can draw from those experiences. But how to draw from an experience that you've never had? And that ties back into your conversation about role playing. Being able to utilize some sort of real life action, whether it's by role playing with somebody who no longer exists in that sort of formality, or role playing with somebody that you have available to you, or doing it tabletop style, or et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose the thread there, but that's pretty much it. And yes, the stillness of spirit. Wow, that's perfect.
Nikki's a smart cookie.
It's how I make most of my characters is just by
It's in the text.
I just got in.
It's in
have
the
an
text.
idea for a personality and or something like that, and then I won't necessarily need music to make that person or persons come to life. It's kind of part of my chaotic
Red Vine.
bracketing though that I just kind of let things go from there.
Yeah.
But I had a point and I forgot what it was.
Well, I find that role playing also gives me the opportunity to test out what it feels like to play different things. Like, I've played characters who are 100% nothing like me. Not too many, but I have. Or characters of a different gender expression than I have. Or characters who are experiencing different racial interactions. For example, in a world my husband and I have, we have orcs and ogres, and we call them the tusked races, who have faced really heavy discrimination from other races. And kind of exploring that space and learning to understand it is an interesting way of both understanding something from the perspective of trying to write somebody like that, and understanding it from the perspective of, in some ways, in a very small way, experiencing some of that, even if it's in a completely safe manner. We can delve into whatever ends up happening. I'm down with pretty much any conversations. I might put the kibosh on something if it gets too heated or too specifically political, but I'm completely okay with talking about how to write things that are different than what you experience. I also want to preface that, yeah, no dinosaurs. I want to preface that too by saying I'm not an expert on that subject, so all I can do is my best.
I can say that experience works differently for a lot of different people. Like when Neil Gaiman wrote American Gods, he lived Shadow's travel. You know, when Shadow traveled all around the globe in that book, Neil Gaiman got in his car. He took that trip. When Shadow was driving down through that middle of nowhere town and stopped at that little diner with the heads on the walls and met Mr. Wednesday for the first time in that place there, and met the tall Irishman for the first time. I mean, Neil Gaiman was there. He drove through Ohio and stopped at that exact diner he described. He lived Shadow's travel. He wanted to draw on that experience and write Shadow from that kind of experience. However, we don't all have that kind of luxury. I find, though, that when I write anything, specifically characters, even if the character is absolutely nothing like me, there's usually some hint of ourselves, an imprint of ourselves in every character we write. Maybe it's some deep dark secret of ourselves that we don't like to admit, but we put a little bit of ourselves in every character, and you draw upon that feeling, that experience when you create. And a lot of the times you kind of just have to let the pen take the driver's seat. Beth and I always say that the character writes itself a lot of the times. But even if you're not 100% sure of it, there's usually some experience that you're drawing from.
Yeah, even if that experience isn't the exact thing the character's experiencing, even if it's something that you can kind of use as a bit of an analog for that experience. There are things that are common amongst most experiences. I'm not going to pretend to be able to say, look, I know what it's like to be treated badly because of my skin tone, because I don't. I don't have that experience. I don't know about it. But I can say that I've experienced being discriminated against for other reasons, and I can draw on that experience of having somebody treating me like garbage for something I don't know I can't change. It just is a thing about me, and I can use that to say, I understand what it's like to be treated badly for something I can't change, so can I extrapolate a little bit? And what I don't know, I don't think everything's silent, I'm talking. What I don't know, I can ask people who've had that experience, and will and do. And that's also something extremely important, that you can look to other people for their experience. So if I wanted to write something about what it's like, if I'm writing from the perspective of a black character, for example, who's facing racism, I would find somebody in my life who's faced racism for their skin color, even if I can't find somebody who's the specific ethnicity I'm looking for. And I would ask them about it, and I would sit with them and listen and try and, if I'm going to portray that, I need to portray it accurately and honestly. And if it's not something you're comfortable dealing with in your book, you don't have to deep dive into something like that in your book. It's not a requirement. We've kind of like wandered into the subject, but it's, yeah, that's also true. There are also editors who specify or specialize in that thing, in that arena too. I'm reading what you wrote, Ellie. Yeah, I'm kind of a similar thing. Like, you don't write it as a person. And yeah, I agree, Chris. I think whoever told you that might have been acting out of a place of I don't know, inappropriateness, because in my opinion, if we don't study something, if we don't empathize with it, if a white person can never write about anything except white people, we're never going to get anybody, we're never going to get anywhere. If a man can't write about women, women can't write about men, my characters are limited only to people who have the exact same experience about me, and then I can get nowhere. Because all of my writing would be about disabled white women living in New Hampshire on a farm. Every character. It would
So,
go...
like, Stephen King and Cocaine-Fueled Nightmares.
Right, it would not be good. So, I don't think it's necessary to get too wrapped up in that, because as Ellie said, if you write the character like a person, a human being, then that's typically sufficient, in my opinion anyway, if you're not trying to specifically address racial issues, gender issues, or what have you in your book. If that's not a topic that your book is dealing with, then don't worry about it too much. Write them like human beings. They're people. Don't lean on stereotypes, and when it gets to the point where you're writing for beta readers, or you've got beta readers, ask them to read your stuff, and if they're like, ooh, that's racist, then fix it. And that's exactly it, you know, you have to do some research before you write something that isn't your experience. Well, those people need to get a swift kick in the, you know, crotchal region.
Crotchel?
Crotchal.
Is that a word?
It is now.
Why are we coming to you for writing help?
Shakespeare made up words, I can make up words. Shut up.
Fair enough.
Dude, all of my kicks are crotchety. I'm crotchety. I'm a crotchety old lady.
That's my fault.
It's your fault I'm a crotchety old lady?
It's my fault you're crotchety. I made you crotchety.
You made me crotchety?
Yeah.
When did you make me crotchety?
I'm crotchety. You're crotchety by
Oh, by association?
association.
Yeah, Nikki, that's exactly it. For an unfun smacked bottom, like specifically.
Why am I not seeing conversation?
You have to join the voice chat companion. It's under the group chats.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh.
Sorry. Giving Jay a crash course on where to find things. No, smacking bottoms are for all times. They just need to be done in the right context. I blame Heather. Her presence in this group chat is just, you know, I blame her personally. You've been on your best behavior, but your mere presence makes me, you know, troublesome.
For everybody out there too, just so that everybody knows, airing out our laundry here. speaking about the merits and benefits of roleplay, like role-playing games. Beth and I met through roleplay.
Yeah,
So I found my wife through roleplay.
yeah, that's absolutely true. We met online doing text-based role-playing. On Furcadia, no less, for those of you who know me through there. So Yuna knows, she knows the story, or he knows the story. But we've, we found each other through text-based roleplay, fell in love, and that was, what, 12, 13 years ago almost?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's nothing wrong with exploring characters whose experience is different from your own, because if you write, if you write nothing but what you have personally experienced, you're not going to get anywhere. And God help us speculative fiction writers or fantasy writers, I'm never going to know what it's like to write a dragon. Not something that I've done. And
Well,
so it's,
there's some pretty big Komodos out there.
yeah, maybe acid, yeah. Right, like, I can't write dragons, I can't write fairies, I just might as well take my book and chuck it in the trash and start over again. You know, writing things that aren't your experience isn't a bad thing.
You can write Little Women.
I could write Little Women. Or, not so Little Women, because I'm not little.
I don't think Little Women was actually about diminutive women.
You know, it probably wasn't, but I'm just, you know, making a blanket statement here, okay?
I mean, I've never read the book, but I'm pretty sure that's not what they were getting at.
Halflings. Yeah, it's about tiny halfling women who live on the prairie. Shit, I'm back into fantasy. I can't write it now. Oh my goodness.
What I want to know, and maybe you can answer this, a little off topic, but which one is the Hobbit?
Which one is the Hobbit?
Because there's a lot of
It was
hobbits.
Bilbo.
There's a lot of hobbits in those books.
It was Bilbo.
Which one do we consider like the definitive Hobbit?
Bilbo Baggins.
Why?
Because he was the Hobbit in The Hobbit. He was the
was he the only Hobbit mentioned in the Hobbit?
Like there were some that were kind of mentioned.
Well, then see, he wasn't.
He was the main character though. He was the Hobbit. The others were hobbits, but he was the Hobbit.
Oh, he was the.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. I'll take Samwise under advisement.
Well, Samwise wasn't in the Hobbit.
He was in Lord of the Rings, so he's a Hobbit.
Yes, but he wasn't in the Hobbit.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Who are you to identify him as a hobbit or not a hobbit? Okay, you can't decide for him.
Diminutive person of unspecific gender. Gamgee.
I agree, Chris. The opportunity to explore diverse philosophies and everything else is one of the great things about D&D or about text-based role-playing or about any of those things is it gives you a really great opportunity to explore things as well as things in life. Like, I grew up going to an ashram regularly because my parents attended one, so I know a bit more about Indian culture than a lot of white people do. I don't know a ton, I'm not an expert, but I experienced a fair amount of that. So all of us, I think, have had the opportunity to experience things that aren't the norm, and as writers, it's nice to embrace those kinds of experiences when they're done in a healthy, safe way. Like, if it's not a healthy or safe situation, don't embrace that. But you can use it. It can be fuel for your writing. I know a lot of my less desirable experiences have been great writing fuel, but it's a nice thing when we as writers can go and explore things that we might not have experienced otherwise, because it gives us a different perspective and gives us an opportunity to see things from a different way and use that in our books, which I'm all for. I see a lot of typing happening, so I'm waiting for the Okay, Yuna. Yeah, that's welcome back, Brila. That is absolutely the case, Ellie. Life experience is definitely learning. For example, I've had a lot of life experiences surrounding being close to somebody dealing with addiction. I have not been addicted to something myself, but I've been close to it. And I know a lot more than that about, about that sort of thing than a lot of people do because I've been there. And I draw on that experience when I'm writing or what have you because it's something I know. And I know the old adage is write what you know, and that's not wrong, but what you know can always grow and change, and if you don't know something, research it. When I think about riding dragons, I draw on my experience with what it's like to ride a horse.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah, it's an experience of riding something, and anybody who wants to talk about riding dragons with some measure of authenticity might find scheduling a chance to go horseback riding a very instructive experience.
I mean, I imagine flying through space in a TIE fighter isn't too different from driving quickly on the freeway. So
Only when it's snowing.
Oh, using
Don't drive quickly when it's snowing.
Using experiences that you have had and just just kind of manipulating them in a way that would be useful for what you want to write, and experiences that you haven't had would be, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, or as Heather said, there are definitely universal feelings. There are things that everybody's dealt with: sadness, grief, isolation, anger, frustration, joy. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Do not jury rigs horses and flamethrowers do not go together. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever been on a horse that has been stung by a bee, but I recommend against that particular line of, you know what, it's your face that's gonna end up in the dirt. You know what, that's your problem.
Having been kicked by a horse, I do not recommend this course of action.
Nope. It is not fun to get kicked, bitten, stomped on, thrown. None of those things are good experiences.
You're making me just love horses so much more.
Well, it's not a normal thing, like...
yeah, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that much. I mean, you're probably going to fall off at one point or another, but usually it's not because the horse threw you. It might be because the horse decided they're going left and you were leaning right, and then goodbye, out of the saddle.
So that everybody knows I'm afraid of horses.
Yeah, my husband is scared of horses. I love horses.
But to be fair, I'm a city boy. I did not grow up around horses, so they're very much an unknown entity to me. So.
And see, I grew up, I was little tiny 6-year-old me used to play in the stalls with the work horses, so I could barely reach their tummies to pat them, and they're just sitting there like, you're adorable down there, but what are you doing? So I know you know what, I might know what it's like to be near a dragon that's way taller than me, and, there we go. So, haha, I can write about dragons again. But it's definitely true that a lot of us have experienced things that we can draw on that, yes, I've justified it, that we can draw on to use to shape to what we're writing. I know Brila was writing about time travel. Well, obviously we haven't done time travel. If you research the time period you're going to and maybe participate in living history organizations, you can't see the... okay, fine. You didn't see my excited flailing when I was talking about living history organizations, but participating in some of those events can be really exciting for people writing medieval-themed books because you get a really interesting feel for what it was like in a lot of ways. I strongly recommend it. Heck, I recommend it even if you're not writing books. Just do it.
Yeah, part of the premise is that there's this small group of time travelers called journeymen, and the way that they prepare to go back in time, the things that they do, is by participating in an SCA group and learning how to do things like dyeing and cooking and, all that kind of thing.
I will neither confirm nor deny the fact that I'm preparing to time travel. and Heather, of course I mean, you have kids, so you can't, you know, pretend, never mind. You don't get plausible deniability, I'm just saying. But yeah, those experiences can be a lot of fun and open doors for writing things that, yeah, that might be a fun way to do some stuff. Jonathan, I can open up, I can put some channels up in the group for anybody who wants to do some of that just for funsies. I already have a roleplay group on Discord that several of you were acquainted with. But yeah, that'd be fine if it's something that people are interested in. What did so getting back to the subject of outlines now that we've wandered off into the weeds for the last half hour, did anybody learn anything by doing their outlines, those of you who can or did? Like, did you feel, those of you who don't outline regularly, did you feel that it's, yeah, it is hard, but did you feel it's worth anything or that it helped somehow?
I have a really messy second half of the novel, basically, and almost like a caper or a mystery where we got to pull all kinds of things together. And this exercise using the beat sheets and kind of being more specific than just an inciting incident, right? Be more specific in what kind of things you're looking for. It really forced me into looking at all those events that I have and putting them in some kind of logical order. So I found it really, really helpful.
Wonderful. I know Jonathan said he found it helpful to help kind of give him some structure to work on his nonfiction, even though the beat sheet isn't really designed for nonfiction, but you can jury-rig a little bit. Anybody else find anything specific that they wanted to go over using either this outline method or other outline method? Nice, Tavi, that's good. I have found that the theme stated part of this, I know some people were struggling with what the theme of their novel was. I've found that writing the theme stated, I oftentimes will go back and rewrite that when I've finished deciding what the novel's about, because the theme stated is usually kind of a preview of the rest of it. Like, for example, in my novel, let me pull up my outline over here. My theme through the book is that my main character, Archimedes, doesn't want anything to do with being king at this point. It's more complicated than it sounds like in the outline, but there's a whole lot of setting information I didn't include, but he didn't really want anything to do with being king and has been trying to avoid it for a really long time. And then he ends up in the end accepting that he has to, because if he doesn't, horrible things happen. Nikki, it's just practice. Even if it's a single sentence of, here's an idea of where I might be going, potentially, then that's all you need to say. Like, you don't have to have a huge amount of content in your outline, because ultimately, while we shared our outlines this time, for the purposes of critiquing and discussing things and going over parts that people struggled with, ultimately the outline's for you, so as much or as little as you feel is going to be enough for you to do your writing and remember all of your plot points, that's all you need to do. Haha! It's like I know these things. What was your question? I'm curious now. Oh, yeah, the outline is just for the author. I mean, publishers, we don't want your outline because your outline's usually a mess. And frankly, as you saw with my outline, there's a lot of, I don't have any idea what's happening here, and I'm sort of following what's going on, but it's not really coming together as a plot. Until you read the book, it's not really gonna come together. And the author typically has the some of the connecting stuff in their brain when they're writing the outline. So it's more of a roadmap than anything, just for the author or for other people they want to workshop things with. From a professional standpoint, the thing that a publisher would want is the synopsis, which you don't write until you've written the book anyway. And synopses are difficult and complicated beasts. We can do a talk about those at some point. But what I'm hoping to kind of do is kickstart everybody writing. So my hope for the quote-unquote homework for next week is to, if you haven't done it yet, or I know Heather and a few other people are professionals dealing with other things, but if those of you who haven't started anything yet, write your first chapter, and those of you who already have a first chapter, let's share them with each other. And then we can continue kind of sharing things in chunks with one another. Your first chapter should be no longer than like 3,000 to 5,000 words at most, so we're not looking for like 30,000 words, because if your first chapter is that long, I will hunt you down and beat you with a tuna. Like a live tuna. It'll be flopping and everything, and it's going to be heavy, and trying to beat you with it is going to be challenging, so don't make me do that. Yeah, you can have sushi after, yeah. Whoever doesn't get beaten with the tuna, the rest of us share the fish. I mean, shut up, Nikki, you're not wrong, but, like, I'll try. That's fine, Ellie. My chapters are extremely short. My chapters average about 12 to 1,500 words. That's it. Like, but for me, I like short chapters for what I do. I recognize that that's not for everybody. Other people do longer things. Yeah, 5,000, like, in that general vicinity is fine. So, and, like, it's anxiety making for me to share my more or less unedited work with anybody, because I edit things, and so it makes me anxious that anybody's going to read the stuff that I write, but at the same time, we're all doing this together, so it makes me feel slightly more comfortable sharing my stuff. So I will also be sharing my chapters too. I want everybody to be part of that. And if you're not comfortable with it, you are not obligated to do anything. Like, you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with. So don't worry about that. But I like to, so far, this whole group has been really positive and supportive and friendly and caring of one another. And go for it, Chris. And so I think, creating a safe place for all of us to share our writing in a supportive and positive way is going to be a good thing. And for some people who may not be used to doing critique type stuff, it's a good chance for you to experience what that is like a little. Hello, welcome to the group, or the chat. You've been in the group for a while. Kat, we were talking about our homework for next week, not that we're closing down right now, but our homework for next week is to share our first chapter. Based on our outlines, we're going to write our first chapters, or those of you who already have their first chapters down, you can just share that even if you've already been writing way ahead of that. You don't need to start something new to do this. So the beat sheet is just a framework. Your book does not need to meet that perfectly. If you notice my outline, I do not have a B story. So you don't have to 100%, you don't have to share every single thing, and it doesn't need to be 100% perfect to the beat sheet to be a valid thing. The beat sheet's just a framework. It's one that I like, but it's not the only one that exists and the only one that matters. And yeah, sharing chapters is scary. I think everybody can kind of relate to that, oh god, somebody's about to read my stuff and it's awful feeling, and I was talking about how I feel that way about my stuff. Particularly since I feel like everyone's going to judge me harder because I edit for a living. Like, I'm an editor and publisher, that's what I do, and I always get like, oh no, everybody's gonna see that I'm a fraud and I don't know anything, and the imposter syndrome is real with this one. That's absolutely true, and I don't advise that anybody be their own editor beyond the best editing you can do. Either hire somebody or find a publisher or whatever it is you're going to do. If you're getting ready to take something to market, have somebody else edit your work. That's a very important thing. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel, Heather. It's this looming sense of, oh god, they'll find out. But I don't think anybody here is going to be like that, and these are all works in progress, so all of them are going to have bruises and warts and bumps, and that's what this is about. You know, nobody's expecting anyone's work to be perfect the first time, and if you are, well, I submit mine is absolutely not perfect at all, and I'm in the third rewrite from the bones of it up, and I've changed plot points. So if anybody's expecting perfection, then they should probably find a new hobby. You can share the prologue with the first chapter if you'd like to. That's fine. I guess I'd probably share my prologue with the first chapter. My prologue's only like 300 words anyway, so. And yeah, as Nikki said, we don't need, like, be kind to people. If you see something good, tell them that you saw something good. But, oh my gosh, Old Man of the Sea and haiku. If you see something that they need to work on, if you see, like, heck, I'll even make it personal. If you see something in my writing that is broken, yes, it's being recorded, Chris. It'll be going up on the channel. If you see something in my writing that's broken, I want you to tell me, because workshopping things with people is how we find those spots that we might not see ourselves. But be kind. And not that I'd expect anything different from this group, because everybody's fantastic that I've seen so far. But, you know, also in this, if you want to do that, Tavi, that's fine. If you'd like to, like the first, however, yeah, opening scene is fine, like however many words works for you. Yeah, Ellie, I hear you. The middle is always the problem child. The middle of the book is just always a problem. And we will get there. Like, my hope is that we're going to kind of go through this together, and then once we've shared our beginnings up through the opening images and maybe through up to the setups and stuff, we can take a look at these and compare them to our outlines, and we can all tackle the parts that we struggle with together. Like, that's part of the purpose of this whole thing, is to do stuff as a group. And help motivate those of us who need motivating, and encourage those of us who need encouraging, and so on. Like, that's the whole function of a writer's group. Aside from the obvious help with critique and stuff. But that's what I'm hoping to create here, is we can all, you know, workshop through things, and then when we finish these books, we can move on to our next ones. And a kick in the ass. Yeah, dude, I'm good at kicking people in the ass. I got big honkin' boots. Big boots. No, monster, you can't just... My cat is attacking my dice. She seems to think that she wants to play D&D. Yeah. My next cat I'm naming Tarask. Whoever the cat is, I'm naming it Tarask. For those of you who don't play D&D, they are giant world-ending monsters. Sorry, John. We're all doomed now. I know, 2020, it's gonna be the next disaster. It just rises from the ocean. Oh, monster. Thulu, yeah. So, does anybody have anything else that they want to go over? Any challenges that they had this week? Writing related or otherwise? Bird Brain is not actually typing, that's a lie. My cat, Monster, walked across his keyboard.
So I have a question, but it's not related to this, so I think I'll post it elsewhere, but it's around trying to interview people. And I don't know if anyone in this group has had any experience interviewing somebody for a written piece, but I'd like anyone's input if anyone has any experience in that arena.
I do not, but if anybody here does, like, definitely connect with them. And also, there are writing groups on Facebook that you might be able to find who are, maybe you could find somebody who does, like, come on, Beth, what's the word? My brain is full of cheese today. The thing where you write for papers. The word has just evaporated from my brain.
Journalism.
Thank you, journalism.
Journalism.
There you go. You might find a journalist group on Facebook who could help you with that. If you don't find anybody here.
I think your best bet in a case like that, when you have to interview someone, is practicing with other people that you already know, listening, active and passive listening, because the hardest part is the now I've got the Hawaiian stole the words again, Beth.
Oh no, not the Hawaiian.
If they come back, I will put them. I will put them in text.
Okay. Yes, active listening, passive listening, knowing what questions to ask to kind of tease out more information. I'm no expert at that by any stretch, but I've had to do that kind of sort of with clients when I ask them, okay, so what is it you want me to do? Or what is it you're going for here? That kind of thing can be a challenge. But yeah, practicing, maybe try and interview somebody you know personally about a subject, and then see if you got all the information you wanted. Just practice. Ain't that the truth, Ellie? Oh my gosh. And no, you're not an oddball. I mean, well, yes, you are an oddball, but not because of the whole, you going from nonfiction. It's fine. Nice, Ellie. Like, writers in general are weird, so. Empathy. And we at least pretend to human. I mean, I don't normally pretend to human. If I had a choice to pretend to anything, I'd pretend to cat. Or succeed at cat. There you go, Ellie. Perfect. And that's food for thought, Brilla. We definitely explore the human experience and emotions and how to convey them and so on. We examine that kind of stuff pretty deeply. So that's an interesting thought. I know musicians do similar things. Most artists kind of do that kind of stuff too. Yep. Art is definitely life, whether it's music or writing or fiber arts or what have you. Anything creative, I think, is one of the things that gives humanity life. I'm a big fan of do all the things. I mean, maybe, but I spin yarn and I crochet and I'm learning to weave and other stuff, so knitting is the devil. Knitting is the devil. Last time I tried to knit, I summoned Yarn Thulu and it went badly. But I can crochet. Yes, exactly. If you nibble around the edges and like you can get fun shapes and try not to make a mess. That's nice, Brilla.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to sign off. Much
All right.
appreciated. See you guys next week.
See you next week. Have a great night. I think we can kind of wrap up here since we're all just sort of goofing off. If anybody has any questions or wants to chit chat, you know, I'm down for anything else. If folks have things they want to address. I know you came in late, Kat. DTC? Oh, down to chat. That almost went in a direction that I was not prepared for. It does not need to be particularly edited. I mean, let's try and make it readable by everybody, but you don't need to go hog wild on it. This does not need to be perfect. You're welcome, Heather. So yeah, let's do first chapters next week. Everybody can share their chapters over the course of a week, whether you have it written now or are writing it. And about 5,000 words, I'll share that in the Facebook group and in the announcements, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm glad to have you all. It's been a lot of fun to spend time together. You're very welcome. Yeah, if your chapter contains anything that is explicit or is something that would be extremely triggering for somebody, like graphic depictions of certain kinds of violence and stuff, I would do a trigger warning on it. You can share it, but I would just slap something on there that says, you know, this content may not be for everybody. So that if we have someone who's light and fluffy. Yeah, that works. But yeah, if you've got something that would be stressful or somebody might read it and be like, my eyes! Then maybe put something on there. You can do it, Nikki. You can do it.
If you can't do it, fake it.
Yep, if you can't do it, fake it. I'm all about faking it.
It needs to be my life motto. If you can't do it, fake it.
Ain't that the truth? God knows I'm faking it all the time, so. All right, I'm gonna head over to the general chat and upload my my chapter shortly because I figure if I'm gonna make everyone else do it, I might as well be the first one in the pool.
Remember, there are two types of people in this world: those who can write and E.L. James.
Oh. Oh, that's not wrong, but oh.
And she still made money.
She made money. She made money hand over fist. So even if your writing is garbage and you get lucky, you might make a lot of money. So don't stress it too hard.
She literally made money off of a book of text messages.
It was Twilight fan fiction in text message form, with a couple of sex scenes that were half-assed BDSM. Ugh. Yep. And that's true, Heather. A lot of success is luck.
Admittedly, though, it was really titillating to a lot of people who knew nothing but vanilla anything.
Which is totally understandable. I would be far less bothered by... I don't care the fact that it's watered down BDSM. I care about the fact that it is obviously grooming and non-consensual and makes it look just... I have other issues with the book. You're trying to do those dishes and now your phone is horror sex. Well, that's where we are.
You take the good with the bad, man.
We are full of interesting conversations, Heather. Full of them. Last week it was dinosaurs, this week it's horror sex. Here we go. Oh, no. I've never heard of that title. I'll have to check it out. Isn't that you get to clutch your pearls for a second, Heather? And on that note, I'm leaving the voice chat. Y'all are on your own.
Ooh, vampire dino erotica.
I love you too, you jerk.
Is that erotica between a vampire and a dino, or is the dino a vampire?
Yes.
So it's erotica between two vampire dinosaurs?
Sure.
I'm intrigued.
Well, now you know what you're writing. Congratulations, your first chapter is due next week.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I'd like to subscribe to your newsletter.
Oh no. If you send me that, I'm going to be very displeased with you, Jason.
Oh.
What
if
have
I
I
had a working
done?
laptop, I would do it.
What have I done? Oh.
You know, with my broken laptop, I should just go ahead and write a chapter and send you whatever comes out.
You
Just
know
go
what?
ahead and let the words jump around wherever they're going to
Go for it. Alright, have a great week, everybody. It was a pleasure as always, or an experience anyway.
Thank you all. See how you do in the next video.
Video!
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Have a good night.